Hello and welcome to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. My name is Chanel Bunger, and today I'm excited to speak with regular guest Liz Hutson, Principal Consultant and Owner at EGH LLC, who joins us today to discuss the topic narrowing the focus. Liz, thank you as always for joining me. I'll have you take it away from here so you can share your insights with us.
Absolutely, Chanel. Great to talk with you. We're sitting here at the middle of January, at the beginning of 2025, and many of us, myself included, started the new year off with tons of ideas, energy, and just countless resolutions and goals. But oftentimes what happens, we burn out. And sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it takes a few weeks. I just learned of this, and maybe I should have known this before, but there's actually a name for the day that this happens, believe it or not. It's the second Friday in January. They term it the Quitter's Day. And this is the day that a lot of people give up on their resolutions. And as I think about it, why is it that people quit on that day after, just a few weeks earlier being so excited about what they wanted to do? I think it's because we lose motivation because we realize the thing that we're trying to do is hard, right? It takes effort. And the important thing, though, the thing that is actually really difficult is that we have too many things that we're trying to do. So I think one of the things that we can help with that in terms of keeping those goals alive is, instead of quitting them, maybe it's time to work on narrowing the focus. And I think there's some ideas on how we make that happen, or why this is important. And so those three ideas, we'll start with the first one, is the reality is we can actually do a lot more with less. So when we reduce our list from 20 things or 25 things on there and just focus on one or two things, we can actually make some real progress. I think when our energies are focused on just a couple few things, we can move those things along. And even more and more studies, I'm just reading just finished a book by Sanjay Gupta called Keep Sharp on Brain Health. And in that book and other studies that I've read as well, seeing more and more that multitasking is actually really not good for the brain. It affects negatively cognitive function, such as attention and memory and problem solving. It just makes it difficult to focus on any single task, and our productivity comes down. We have a lot more errors. So if we take all those different things and just say, I'm just going to work on one, maybe two things, we can actually do more with less. That's the first idea.
Got it. And what would you say the next step would be?
Yeah, so I think the important thing here is when we do more with less, the second thing that starts to happen is actually a great catalyst, a great fuel for what happens is when we knock that one thing off the list or two things off the list, that win builds momentum, both for yourself and for your team or other people that are watching. You're like, oh, that's really great. I made some progress. It generates that momentum. And when that momentum comes, we build confidence. Like, hey, I knocked that one thing off. I knocked that two things off. I'm ready to take on the next thing. And then that confidence takes us to number 3 and number 4 on the list. And what we're seeing is that we're not only knocking off things 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but we're taking on harder things, and we're successful with them because we have a confidence and a momentum that's been built with that. And just that third idea is that, it's not that when we take the 25 things and narrow it down to 1 or 2, that the other things don't happen. That's not it. We're just basically saying it doesn't come off the list. It just shifts down the list, right? So we just prioritize it. We look and say, what is it that I need to do right now? What's my most important thing, or what's maybe one of the easiest things to just get some momentum and feel good about this? However you want to pick what number 1 is going to be. But we just take the other things and shift them to later. We're going to start to do things in series, not in parallel. And one of my favorite quotes, and I think is so true when we talk about this as our own team and with our clients, is that if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority, right? So I think this is a good concept to understand and to really focus on and say, we're just going to do a few things. One thing that we work with our clients on, especially as we're setting mission, vision, goals, objectives, and key results and things like that for the upcoming year or whatever it is that their planning is. We love the book Measure What Matters by John Doerr. And he talks about this idea of objectives and key results. And in there, he too, and that system really focuses on a couple of few things, right? Not 100 things, but what are the one macro idea and maybe two, possibly three objectives that fall under that big umbrella, that key rallying cry. And then how do we measure that and how do we keep progress along those things? And we do them in sprints. And I love that idea. I love that concept.
Love it. Well, Liz, I want to thank you for your time today. But before I let you go, is there anything else listeners should know?
No, just keep going with those goals. I think let's not be a quitter. Let's put that second Friday in January aside and say, now we're going to really lean into it and focus and prioritize so that we can make a really powerful and impactful 2025.
Love it. Well, Liz, I want to thank you for your time today and for joining me on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Looking forward to talking more in 2025.
Sounds great. Thank you, Chanel.